is Adriana, and for my student presentation of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, I have pages 161 through 180. So, in the beginning of the section, the traveling group arrives at the Dewey's place. Right from the get-go, there's a lot of tension between the traveling group and the Deweys. The Deweys seems to be focused on Piercig's past self, while John and Sylvia have moved on and see Piercig for who he was after his electroshock therapy. You can tell that they really are focused on his past self because they say a lot of "you have changed" and stuff along those lines. So after dinner, Dewey's brings out a set of instructions for a barbecue that he wants Piercig to inspect. Dewey's does not like the instructions or the way they're written. He has trouble following them. Piercig states that the ultimate test to a machine is the person's peace of mind. So that basically means if you yourself are satisfied with what you built, then it's fine. If you're not satisfied with what you built, then you have to further inspect it and make changes. Piercig proceeds to tell Dewey's about an ancient Greek named Phaedrus. Phaedrus worked with Plato and was around while they were developing reason. The reason why Piercig refers to his past self as Phaedrus is because during the time where Plato existed, Phaedrus was a rebel. He had his own thoughts that differed from the norm. Similar to Piercig and his own self, he had thoughts that were different from the norm as well. In this section, Piercig also makes the argument that because there are several ways to build a machine, it's technically a work of art. That's why it can be hard to follow instructions that come from a factory, because everyone sees things in a different way, and there's so many ways that things can actually be built. Piercig says, this divorce of art from technology is completely unnatural. It's just that it's gone on so long, you have to be an archaeologist to find out where the two separated. This shows that deep down, Piercig still resides with his old self, he still has similar thoughts, and he's still concerned about bridging the gap between romantic and classical thinking. Robert and Piercig decide to discuss it further, and Piercig claims that a classical understanding of things is not sufficient enough to know something. You have to understand the classical and the romantic. The duality of these two understandings help one expand their knowledge. So, a few days later, John and Sylvia continue on their way and say their goodbyes. Piercig and Chris decide to take a walk toward the school that Piercig used to teach at. Piercig asks Chris if he remembers the street they're walking down, and it triggers some memories that he might not want to remember. Chris says that Piercig remembers his dad. He would come home from work and not talk to his family, and his mom would always make excuses, such as he was thinking hard, which technically was true. When they arrive at the school that Phaedrus used to teach at, the energy is too triggering for Chris, and he runs out, leaving Piercig to explore the building alone. Piercig goes to the room that he used to teach in when another woman barges in. The woman is an old student of Phaedrus. She is in shock to see him. When the woman finds out that Phaedrus is no longer teaching, she is in a state of disappointed disbelief. This is very important because it shows to the reader that Phaedrus wasn't all bad. He actually influenced some of his students. Otherwise, this woman that walked in wouldn't have been so disappointed to find out that he wasn't teaching anymore. But this is another example that just shows how much he really did change after his electroshock therapy. So some important themes I found within this section is the conflict between Piercig's past self, Phaedrus, and Piercig's current self, I think that the section showed that it's really important that Pirsig explores his past self and comes to terms with it. Otherwise, he's just going to keep getting these triggering events that he doesn't know how to explain or to come to terms with. So it's really important that they are taking this journey in order for him to come to terms with his life and what he's dealing with, because the conflict between the two selves, it puts people in uncomfortable situations. You know, everyone has struggled with it, everyone has tension. So him being able to come to terms with it, I think will really help out with that. And another important theme is Pirsig still concerned with bridging the gap between a romantic understanding and a classical understanding. You know, romantic and classical understanding, each of them are important, but if you just focus on one, you're not going to get the full picture. One needs to be able to bridge the two together in order to get the full picture and have a better understanding.